Hey folks, welcome back to Soaring Profits. We got our Thursday night live and a cool little ticker down the bottom
Wow.
is, I don't know, we're kind of cool like that, I guess.
Moving up in the world. We got some tech going. We got our little square in the corner.
Yeah, it's been
And
a
I'm
big
going to tell you
week.
this right now. Pat did all of this. I had nothing to do with it.
I'm
Nothing.
telling you.
I'm
And
pretty proud
our
of him.
special guest host for the evening, we have the lovely Sara. And welcome.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
Pleasure
And
to
as
be
you can see,
here.
like right above her, all the
Yeah.
little logo that we've got set up here. And this is all done through Vanna. Thank you. Thank
Perfect.
you, Vanna. This is all done through StreamYard. So a couple of you folks have asked, what kind of program we use. Oh, Sarah, you just got muted for some reason.
Nice.
And I'm good. I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I work from home. I know how to use the mute.
She's got it. So StreamYard is the program that we're using, folks, and doing this. This is an easy setup for yourselves at home as well. Web-based system. Sarah, you've kind of just jumped on here for your first time, never doing this sort of thing before. Pretty easy as a guest jumping on.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Highly recommend it.
Right here, we're gonna get the Soaring Profits first contract. I know James is working on the whole Nike thing behind.
I'm working on Nike. I think Nike and I would be good together. Like I'm a hardcore liberal. They're a hardcore liberal. We could do great things together. I run. Just do it. I like that. I think we do that. It'd be great. So Nike, if you're out there, and Elon, we're still waiting for your call back. Like we'd love to have you. We could have a great conversation about Twitter. Give us a call.
Yeah, if you got about 44 billion and to help the guy out, I think is you got a bit of a problem. But we are kind of off track starting off here. First of all, I'd like to introduce Sara. Sara's been a longtime friend of mine. She is a fantastic young lady, very smart in the business world, currently working on her MBA, her master's in business. And like she had kind of briefly stated there, she's one of these new work from home type millennials that has embraced kind of that work from home lifestyle and has kind of changed the way that, a lot of us have worked, right? We've got StreamYard, we've got Zoom, we've got all of these products that are coming out here right now and that sort of thing. So a few topics we want to hit with Sara tonight, talking about what that means now going forward and how that's affecting people's everyday life. So Sara, thank you. Welcome.
Longtime profiteer. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Profiteer. I love it.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's awesome.
So, Sara, tell us a little bit about your kind of process that you've had over the last little while. I know that I get pretty frequent updates in regards to your real estate search. What's it been like? Tell us a little bit about what your process has been.
Up until, 2 years ago, I was working downtown, had to be in the city working 9 to 5. When we started working from home, I embraced it. Silver lining, was able to get a dog, and then started looking at houses because, I didn't have to commute into the city anymore. So went back to my hometown of Durham region, and everyone from Toronto came with me. The market absolutely blew up. It went up, 25%?
Right.
It was a nightmare.
Right.
And now things are starting to settle down. And as the market declines a little bit, I'm ready. My bags are packed and I'm ready to find something, but we'll see how it goes.
Right. Well, and it's funny, you and I have talked privately, as well as we've been talking for a long time on here with James and I and our other guests about kind of what the real estate market is looking like, what it's going to look like, what the next, 6, 8, 12 months even is going to look like. And I know, like the crystal ball of soaring profits of where we come from, right?
Yeah.
But Pat has been right quite often, so I would listen. I'm just saying, I'm shocked.
Look at his head just like
over and over again. I don't know how he's doing it. I have no idea, but he has been right over like cereal. He knew cereal would be $10, and like 4 days later it was $10. So
right.
And that's kind of why I send him those listings, because I know he's got his finger on the pulse, and I'm also looking out where you're away, so you're familiar with the areas and which neighborhoods are affordable for a reason.
That is, I think, the most politically correct way I've ever heard that put.
That's pretty nice. I like that.
Affordably for a reason. I like that. Yeah.
Like, as a young woman, like, and I have a dog, like, I want to be able to go out at night and let my dog out and not have to worry about anyone hollering at me or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I suggest Sudbury.
Not here, apparently. I think that's what James was saying. Yeah. We actually.
I'm kidding. There's a lot of good places around here. I'm just teasing. But.
Yeah. Well, we actually had a conversation was it last night that we had that? In regards to kind of the I'm going to call it a demographic dynamic switch. And what we've seen here is a demographic of this like 25 to 35-year-old, there's no other way of putting it, but like drug addict that has really flourished in Peterborough for some reason. And we're seeing such an influx of criminality, the drugs, the homelessness, the transiency that is kind of flourished from all that. And it's something, Sara, that, you know, you're spot on with what you're saying, is that the simple luxuries of life that used to be, you want to take your dog for a walk, you want to be able to go down to the corner store and not worried about getting robbed, mugged, whatever. It's almost like a price that you have to pay for that now. It used to be just wherever you live, that was a thing.
I think right now we're just at the pivot point, though. Like right now, you can walk. You'd be fine walking with your dog to the store or anything like that, but you will be asked many times for money. You'll be, you know.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, but we're at that pivot point right now that it will, like, there are people smashing and grabbing. They're breaking into cars during daylight, and it's just that, like, this morning I was driving to work at 4 a.m. and right on the sidewalk there was a campfire, all by itself, blazing. And I ended up pulling over and phoning 911 and just telling them about it, because I'm like, there is nobody around. There's a hotel right across the street. I have no idea why the security wouldn't call on it, but anyway,
throw a bucket.
Stuff like that is constantly happening now. So I'm not sure what the future holds unless we start making some changes and we have a better mental health system and the government steps up and starts paying for a better mental health system, and we don't really, you know, grab and release. I'm not sure what's going to happen in Peterborough.
I remember when I went to school in Peterborough, what was it, like, you know, 5, oh my
You're
God.
going to date yourself here.
I know, oh my God. Less than 10 years ago, but very close. And there was quite a few, like, I was surprised for it being more rural compared to like the Durham region, like how many people there were on the street. And, you know, you'd come out after the bar and like buy a hot dog, or like, you know, you'd give them money, you buy them food, whichever. But it's those ones that you're saying when it gets to be a little bit delinquent and you're starting fires, and that's the kind of stuff that you don't want around.
Yeah. Well, and it's bang on, Sara, is that a lot of those people back in those days, like, we knew them by name. Yeah. Right. Like, I'm sure you can name off, you know, the 4 or 5 guys that were downtown all the time. And those guys have all been squeezed out by this very weird. We had one of our guests on the other day, and he was talking about, like, it's almost like a cartel-ish type environment. Like, it's territorial. Like, they have different corners that they're working and garnering income, and that, like, it's wild.
There's like a collection that they collect bottles, and they bring it to a central location where they count them, and there's some interesting stuff going on for sure. Like our homeless were so well known that we, like, as a city, grieved the last homeless person who died, and he was just a lovable man. Everyone loved him, and if you were in the city at like 5 years ago, you knew him. He was just a wonderful guy that everyone cared about. Maybe not Pat, but Pat's heartless, but you know.
That's terrible. He was a lovely guy. He had a different story for every time why he was on the street corner, which, give him his due. Like, he was at least creative about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, he's keeping it real, right? Once he got hit in a car accident, then he got hit by a car, and then
we need to also consider a lot of these people have serious mental health issues.
Oh, no question.
And that could be a symptom of that as well.
Yeah. No, he totally did have mental health issues, but he was the kindest. Even if you didn't have money at that time, he still stopped, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's okay, sir." And he'd stop and like, "So how's your night going? What are you guys up to tonight?" Just the kindest guy ever. But anyway, so Pat's right that those people, they just, I haven't seen them in a long time, and I don't know the reason for that. Like, But
I'm sure COVID played a big part in, them kind of isolating even more,
Right.
right? People weren't around, people weren't downtown.
Well, during COVID, we had this very weird dynamic of this tent city that was established. And they had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tents that were set up through parks in our community. And like some of these guys, like they tried to run it through the winter.
I was living in Fort York downtown, and where I was, it's right by like the armory. So there was this little patch of like grass that wasn't really anything. Like it was kind of not really taken care of enough. Like some people would take their dogs in it, but it was maybe like half an acre. And it became tent city.
wow.
And they brought propane tanks, and people were like, listen, this is going to be a problem. And one day my partner at the time comes out, he's like, look out the window. The whole thing was on fire.
God.
And then there was a big boom and the propane tank blew. But it was like, that's a health and safety. Like people were saying like, hey, like someone needs to check this out. It's going to be a problem. It's right by our building,
Right.
Yeah.
But they literally blew it up.
But so in that process, somebody went and did something, right?
What do you mean?
Like at some point, so there was a fire, there was an explosion, somebody did something, right? In that, like, did they clear it out afterwards?
They had to. Everything was burnt to.
See, but we didn't. We've had death after death after death after death, and they never cleared it out for 2 years. And that's where, like, our mayor in this community right now, God bless her, because I won't, but God bless her, because she is super, super far left, super lefty. Give everyone their graces.
Regardless of her political position, what's the issue?
She's a pain because she's not enacting ordinances to protect property. So what she's done is she's allowed this to continue. She's allowed it to snowball to the point now where you have an immigration process from other communities to us, because they'll come in and they'll offer them their housing allowances, even though they don't have an address. So the government is allowing these individuals. This has been like, look it up. This has been a huge problem because usually your welfare or social assistance or housing assistance and that sort of thing needs to be registered through an address, right? Well, that's great because that's what it's used for. It's there to help folks, right? To pay for their first and last or for their direct rental payments, that sort of thing. Well, all of that money was going to these individuals living in tent city, and they weren't requiring an address. So they were just getting this money, residing in tent city, creating a criminal environment where it was, it's a music fest every night. It was really problematic. And it was keep giving them the check, keep giving them the check, keep giving them the checks. And that's where citizens are like, no.
I think I paid for that.
Right.
So at first,
people that would go down to the parks at 4:00 in the morning and just lay on their horns.
At first, Peterborough was all for it. Like we banded together. There was like a tent that was there that we dropped off.
Yeah, people
supplies for them, food for them, everything.
Yeah.
And then they started not appreciating what Peterborough was doing for them, and they started like staying up, like Pat said, all night. They were leaving needles everywhere. Like we can't even swim in our beaches right now because of the needle problem. But all of these answers aren't their fault. Like I keep on reiterating that it's like our mental health, the way that we do things. We catch and release, and as long as we keep catching and releasing, we're never going to make any positive change, ever. It's always going to be exactly the same. Sorry, I'm laughing at the ding, not at the home.
Couldn't get it done. Still don't know how to turn off.
So I'm curious because like everyone's always pointing like, oh, what's the government doing about this? What's this? What's this? But like, I don't know. Does Trent have like a social work program?
Yes.
Sure does.
Yeah, so does
Clement. About it.
Right.
Why don't they come up with some creative solutions?
But I think you're bang on, Sarah. And it's funny because I think that you're taking a more business-minded approach to solving a problem.
Proactive. If the government hasn't come up with anything, these people are going to be working in these individuals going in social work, they're going to be working on the ground. Right. They're going to have to deal with those systems and processes.
how do you keep them safe? Because when you first come out of school, and I've been through, not through the university program, but I've been through a social service worker program. I came out of swinging. I knew everything there was to know about solving problems of the world. And I had all the skills. Like I could talk to someone and I could unleash their emotions. I could find their core issue, but you don't really have the hands-on skills to deal with all that, right? You don't. So to go out, and some of these people are hardcore mentally ill. Like you're going to need years of therapy. You're going to need medication that someone coming straight out of Trent wouldn't even understand. It's easy to say that someone right out of school, like it would be a great opportunity for them if they had good leadership.
I'm not saying they go hands-on. That would be a liability. Yeah. I'm talking about just like, why don't they have some kind of working groups, you know, try something, little community initiatives, just any kind of initiatives, right?
I think you're bang on. And I know that, James, where you're coming from too, pal, is that there's a liability facet, no question.
Massive.
The issue that I come up with every time when I hear people are like, okay, what do we do with these people? Is first of all, nobody wants to deal with them. No. I look at Trent University, their social service program, and everyone is looking to rush to get their master's so that they can be a teacher of social services somewhere else. There's a massive disconnect between the reality of going and working at a homeless shelter and finishing your 5, 6, 7-year degree. That nobody wants to do it.
Because there's no processes put in place and no systems that enable them to make a change, right? Like you were saying, James, like even if someone's got all the tools in their belt, that's a very, like my mother was a mental health nurse, and, you know, she's just retired after 30 years, spent, I don't know, maybe 10 years or whatever on like 3 Main. So that was where, you know, they'd get the homeless in and she would cut their hair and make them all, you know, and she has, I don't want to put words in her mouth, and I got to remember I'm on record here, not share too much, but there was a big problem with people that would come in and definitely need help, and you can't medicate people without their consent. And throughout school, I understand why. And I think it's really good that people are so protected to not, you know, because people, you know, there was like homophobia back in the day. They would medicate them, lock them up, medicate them. Horrible.
Medicated castration.
Exactly. Horrible, horrible treatment. But now it's swung so far in the other direction that there's people literally walking around naked and you can't medicate them. You can't.
That was one time.
You what?
That was one time, and you always bring it up.
Should have been locked up.
Should have been.
No, but you're bang on, and it's from a societal angle, from a professional angle, from all those things. We see it sort of differently than a lot of people do. And you having it with your family, your crazy family, no.
Yeah, it's like,
no, your mother, though, with what she did. Like, you have an understanding of the mental health business that is vastly different than most people, because you've had those, you know, stories of, oh my gosh, that went sideways, stay in a big.
And this is in the winter. These people are walking around naked. Like, it's not as if they're going, you know, just feeling great, going streaking. Like, this is serious mental illness. Like, they're putting themselves at risk.
It's not always because they don't have clothes, because sometimes they do have clothes. They're just naked because they've chosen to be.
Psychosis.
And then there's nothing.
I don't know if that's a choice, though. And I think that's where it becomes so complicated, is they're not making, their judgment is so skewed. Like, I couldn't say that was like that person's, like, do you think it was their decision?
No, it's not their decision. Like, once you get to a certain level of mental health, you're not making decisions based on fact. You're making
lack thereof,
on lack of fact. That's not to say everyone who has mental health problems doesn't make great decisions. And also, like, some of them slip in and out of it. So there'll be like a couple of weeks where they're very like out of it. And then they, for some reason, their chemicals, and like, I didn't go to university for it, but I just studied it and watched it. Their chemicals change in their brain, and they seem to be able to come out of it, and they're more lucid and they're more able to make those positive decisions. And that's usually when they go seek help. But there's no place to get help.
That or when they go off their medication, right?
Yeah.
Things are good.
Exactly. Once things start getting good. And you know what? people who are like, I've had people that have lived with me that have been like working, doing good on medication, and that's exactly what they do, because the medication, I'm told from like the people that that it dulls them, so they don't get to feel like the joys, and some of them can't have an orgasm. Like, it's just so they come off of it so they can feel those things.
There's workarounds. There's definitely workarounds. And I'm sorry, but if, in my opinion, cost benefit, okay? If the cost of you going off your medication is you're going to be screaming at your family, you know, the peace in your life is going to decline. Why don't you talk to your doctor about maybe trying a different medication that you can get off on?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that these are some of the things that they face. And I know that's why some of the people that I have been in my life have gone off the meds, specifically because they can't orgasm, or because they just don't feel joy anymore. Like, they just feel monotone.
Try a different medication.
That's it. They could, but
Right.
it's hard to get a doctor. How do you go
And
to
I'm
get a
saying
doctor
that,
to change your medication?
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and like my experience has been very different. Like, my mom is, you know, has connections, and I was actually able to speak to like the head psychologist or psychiatrist, sorry, at Lakeridge Health, who has access to that, right? The waiting line is crazy to talk to those kind of people. And like, you can't really to Google that stuff.
Yeah. So
Lord
then
knows what happens when we Google any kind of health issues.
Oh,
yeah, you're dying.
You're dying every time. But
and
then
it will say all the horrible things, like all the worst side effects. Like, there really is a lack of mental health education. Huge. I even have friends that I'm like, come talk to my mom. Like, they'll be on medications, and like they'll be like, you know, really bad sweating or just like feeling a certain way. And I'm like, listen, talk to my mom.
Yeah.
There's options, and like, you tweak things. You don't just like give up.
No, exactly.
No, I think you're bang on there, Sarah. And I think that there has to be a personal awareness. And I understand that the deeper and darker you get into some of the mental health issues, I don't know, how did we get so deep into the mental health stuff here tonight? We just
you wanted to move here.
Yeah. We're warning you. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, exactly. Right.
How do you feel now?
Yeah. No, it's one of those things that, like, personal accountability. Everyone that knows, that listens to this thing, I'm big on personal accountability, and it sounds like you are as well, right? And that's where, you know, we have these conversations: is how do you help these people? But I think it comes back to that. So let's put a cork in the balloon for a minute on the mental health conversation and kind of reroute back to some of the real estate stuff. Because again, the reason why, one of the things is that when we're constantly looking for good people, which I think you're fantastic, and I appreciate you coming on here tonight. Yeah. When we're looking, oh yeah, smart ass, eh? She's getting comfortable, folks. She's got the wink and the gun all rocking. She's rolling here. But when I thought about it, I'm like, you know, you are the type of person that is exactly where so many people are right now, that are like, you've done fantastic in your career. You have money. You have all of these things, and it's just kind of like, what's next, right? Like, where do you go from here? And it's a transition time, right? We all have these in our lives, and that's kind of where you're at right now. And I want to bring you back to the real estate thing, and then I want to talk a little bit about some of the stock stuff, because you and I talk a lot about the stock world as well, and kind of roll from there. So you've been talking about Peterborough. You've been talking about, you know, kind of what's next. Have you been looking in the area much? Have you been looking? How's that process going?
Have I? I have my realtor.ca, all my searches like saved, so I can just click on them and see what's new. Like, I literally see properties that's like been on for 9 minutes. I was like, oh, send this to Pat. Like, what does he think? Is this a good neighborhood? Because you have to, like, if you see something that's good, you have to jump on it. It's not going to be on the market long.
So are you still seeing that? Like, are you still seeing that urgency needs to be there? Or are you starting to see that things that were like 9 minutes, you're now getting 9 days or 9 weeks?
It's certainly slowed down, but I think what we saw in the past year was this is the time that I'm looking at houses. So I don't know, like, over the years, there's always going to be ebbs and flows. But from what I've heard over the year, was just like the last year was just crazy. Like, that, it was unprecedented the word of the year.
Right.
But there's never been that kind of, houses going for like 200 over. Like that was a little bit insane.
Absolutely. Now, do you see when you're looking at those listings now, are you seeing that you're starting to get some value being tagged into some of the prices? For instance, how the best way I can describe that is that if you were looking at, an $800,000 home 6, 8, 12 months ago, is that $800,000 home still 800,000, or are you seeing that starting to move?
The $800,000 houses should be $800,000 if that's kind of how we're going at it. Like there
Right.
was 2-bedroom homes with like little shanty garages for 800,000 in
Right.
Peterborough.
Right.
Like I was going that way because it was more affordable than Durham region.
Right.
And it's like for even that area to be that overpriced, it was
So do you think that that becomes a bit of, so if you think of the market as a bit of a bubble, right? We haven't seen the pop, if you will, yet, where the market's just crashing down. But seeing the air slowly letting out of that bubble, are you starting to see that, you think?
definitely, like you look on Realtor now compared to 6 months ago, and there's actually decent houses available in a more comfortable range that,
Right.
yeah. Whereas,
There were.
$1 million for
Right.
3 bedrooms is like, and it came to the point where it's like I really had to, you need to take a step back and really not make an emotional decision like, oh, I want a house. You need to think like, is this gonna last? Is that house worth that?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
of course agents will tell you, well, it'll, over 30 years, it's not gonna decline, maybe over the next 5, but it's like I think it was definitely inflated.
So you have dealt with agents. You've dealt with, there's a little smirk there. You've dealt with probably good and bad. You've probably gotten some advice that is both good and or bad.
Mhm.
Is there any advice that you could pass on to people that you like, this is something that they've said that I'm like, that makes sense to me. And then this stuff here, that was horse shit. That's not okay.
Yeah. I've dealt with agents when I was like downtown with like rentals, and I've mostly stuck with one, like a friend of the family, for looking at like a home. And he's been absolutely fabulous. I feel bad because I just send him listings and I'm like, is this the one? Is this the one? It's such a process. And really, I think my advice would be find someone you trust,
Right.
because at the end of the day, it's a massive decision and you don't want someone pressuring you into, making a purchase, such a massive purchase, or, saying things like, like the prices are going, pressure, saying anything that's going to make you feel like you need to make the move. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's bang on. I think that that's where I've watched agent friends of mine, and I've kind of had the opportunity to sit around after when they're having a scotch after getting a deal done. And there's two types. I
You
haven't.
don't want the salesman. You do not want the salesman unless
Right.
they're selling your house.
Right.
Then it's different.
And that's where, like, for myself, I've kind of always, in the back of my mind, thought about getting my license just to do like my own deals. And it's like, I can't be bothered with namby-pambying people around.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's a cutthroat business. And, there's someone like yourself, just a figurative type, situation. Let's say, you've kind of budgeted in around that $800,000, value for yourself. That's what homes are going for, right? You're doing your due diligence.
Mhm.
Why do I want to show you a $400,000 or $500,000 house?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not in my best interest as an agent to take you to that $400,000 or $500,000 house because I got an $800,000 buyer on the hook.
And that depends on where you are in your career, because are you going to want those referrals? Am I someone that has a big network? Because in that case, you're going to want to sell me whatever I want.
Right? That's my perspective, is that I believe wholeheartedly that your real estate agent has to be an arm of you. The only thing they're there to do is to create the broker deal between the two parties. But that comes with, you have to educate yourself. And that's one of the things that, that's why I wanted to bring you on. Like, you were kind of the white whale in what we were looking for as a guest, because you are exactly where so many people are obtaining, wanting to try to get to be. And you're sitting there right now, sitting on the golden goose, if you will, right?
Yeah, Sarah, we've been talking about like your demographic for a long time on the show. Like just the fact that you're younger, you're trying to buy a house on your own, you have a career, but all of those barriers are in front of you right now. Because when I was younger, we were talking about like $100,000 house. Like, in fact, the house I'm in, I paid $111,000 for.
Oh,
and like that was hard back then for me, but it wasn't anything like now. Like, I worry about my son who's just starting his career as a computer engineer. I like saying that.
Sounds good, and that's a booming career. Very good for him.
Yeah. So they have a condo for now, but they're hoping to get into a place, but it's going to be really hard for them because of all the barriers to right now. So I'm hoping the market slows down and that the housing goes down. And I have noticed that houses are staying for sale more right in my area, which is a lovely area. It's safe to walk it up. But I don't know, like, because I haven't been watching realtor.com or anything like that, because I kind of got out of it. I was very excited before COVID. I was building my nest egg. I was going to buy another rental property. Yep. I was all excited. I was in constant contact with the bank. I would see them every once in a while. Okay, what do I have to do different to make it happen? And then I got priced out like super quick. It was overnight. The next thing I knew, people were like fighting over houses. People were coming from Toronto. And so I just kind of gave up on it, unfortunately. But now I'm doing it again, like listening to Pat. We have some opportunities coming. So I'm starting that process again. And I'm not that far out because it's not like I've made stupid decisions. So, but we talk about that all the time, that you're so young. It must be kind of foreboding to, like, because you're trying to start your future. And, like, I'm looking on I don't know, I got 10 years to go and I'll be out. But you have, like, whatever decision you may make, like, you maybe for like another 28 years.
Yeah.
And so that compiled with the fact that the housing market is terrible, it must be kind of anxiety building.
Now.
Sorry. I really never really thought about it that way, James.
Oh, sorry.
No, it definitely is. And, I'm very lucky and blessed with my job.
Right.
But, even some of my friends, it's like, they're like, you're looking at buying a house? Like, how? And, when you look at some salaries, it's literally like, I don't know if they can ever do it. Yeah. And also, I read somewhere that they did the math with like inflation, blah, blah, blah. So, when my mother was an immigrant, so when my grandpa came over, how much he had to save, like his working wage for how much the house was like this far. Now it's like, it's just like the polarization is insane. Like, it literally doesn't add up.
No.
Like, the system is not in our favor.
No.
And, they say like 30 is the new 20. And it's like, oh, that's so great.
No, I think you're exactly.
Population. Like, I think Elon Musk, like, he nailed it. He's like, literally, population is going to be a problem. People my age, 10 years ago, or even a couple generations ago, would have 3 kids already. Absolutely. You can't afford it.
Yeah.
You can't afford it.
No.
You can't afford a house. You can't afford, like, and the people that are affording it are knocking ahead.
Right. Well, and I think you're exactly right.
Mic drop.
No, but I think you're exactly right. And it's the next generation, and we can get kind of crazy here, and we can put our, like, my little tinfoil cap on, because the words that you say,
take it off, does he? He doesn't take it off.
I love it. But when you say that, this talks about this great financial reset that we're going through, and it's very hard to say that we're not going through a generational financial reset. And part of that, and part of the EMF, which is the World Economic Forum. Why am I got that all backwards? EMF.
World Economic.
No, but it's not world. It's
anyways.
I'll get back to that. The Economic Forum. Charles Schwab has come out with a convert. Are you Googling this? You're Googling this right now, aren't you?
She's doing it. You go ahead.
This. About this great reset where you will own nothing and you will enjoy it and you will like it.
Isn't
And
that
this goes,
communism?
well, so it's not. It's not going to be
I
communism.
think it's socialism.
Yeah, it's going to be this new kind of governance branch that we have, and that we could Google it about what it is, but it's. Did you Google the World Economic?
Whatever popped up, she was like, "I'm out."
Yeah, she did not want to see that at all. You're now under surveillance by the FBI.
It's okay. Just coming on this show does that. So
right, you're basically being watched now, like you weren't being watched by CSIS before.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And this is
So anyways,
why
kind of long story.
I only go so deep because it's so terrifying.
Oh,
it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like
and so you're a smart enough. You're a smart enough person that you can kind of read it and then read between the lines and go, holy shit, if A, then B. There's so many people that take things at face value, right? Like we've talked about this before, and it's just one that just comes to mind, is that when Bill Gates, when he's buying hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland, Bill ain't no farmer, folks. Like you have to stop and go, what? Why?
What's he growing?
Right. Well, but my question becomes,
it's good.
Right. But it becomes even more so problematic in the fact that Bill Gates is a master monopolizer of industries. So if he's buying hundreds of thousands of acres for agriculture, he doesn't go in to lose. He's done it in the computer business. He did it in the pharmaceutical business. And now he's going to go into the agribusiness.
He's what he's really good at is finding talent. Like he himself is not like, he's brilliant in finding talent and exploiting that talent to his needs and then becoming the face of that talent. That's where he rises.
I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that he's a nice person. And he's
no.
giving people opportunities.
Well, I think at the end of the day, he is a nice person. Like, I think he really believes in what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think he really thrives on trying to help people. Like, I think he's done a lot of great in the world. Like, he's helped like poor impoverished communities and stuff like that.
Polio, right?
But I think his skills are finding the people that are really bright and using them.
That's a good businessman, though.
That is a good businessman.
Be good or be good at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where he's at, because he started with Apple, and that's exactly what he did. He didn't know anything about, well, he knew a little bit about computers, but he stole the windows from the main window from Xerox, I believe it was, because he's just a brilliant guy. He just knew what opportunities would be great, and he finds them. So this whole growing thing could have nothing to do with what Pat's talking about.
Well, if I can just,
he's found a group of farmers who are like, you know what? We could make a kick-ass watermelon if we just had land. And he's like, yeah, man, let's make computerized watermelons. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge.
I'm going to eat that.
It could be anything like that. It doesn't necessarily, like, everything that uh-oh, I don't know what we're about to see. I'm scared.
What does it say? Bill Gates what?
So this is the deposition of Bill Gates before the House.
When was it?
In 1998.
Oh wow.
Okay. Bill Gates,
when I was her age.
Right. So this is Bill Gates being questioned by Congress. Okay. I want you to, it's a 3-minute clip. I'm just going to play it in the background. It doesn't even matter what he's being asked.
Mr. Gates, you're familiar with a company called Real Networks, are you not?
Yes.
Does he look confident?
Did you ever have any
right.
discussions with any representative of Real Networks concerning what products
that he's showing right now is
Real Networks should or should not offer or distribute?
That's what you're
We
saying.
can't hear you so much here, James. Hang on a second. Sorry, pal. We couldn't really hear you.
What I was saying is all the body language that he is showing is that he's annoyed. He's annoyed he has to be there. He's annoyed that he has to explain himself. Everything that he's exhibiting right there is totally that. It's like you guys don't have the right to question my brilliance.
To be fair, we don't like, I always want to see, devil's advocate.
Yeah.
What if you were in his shoes?
Oh, I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm just saying that that's what Pat's seeing. Pat's
So
seeing
that
non-confident person, and I'm saying it's
no,
not that he's confident, it's that he's overconfident.
that's exactly the point. So
Right.
my perspective on that, and it's a 53-minute deposition. That's a 3-minute clip about his body language. That
Yeah.
deposition was around the monopolization of the tech industry. And basically, Congress at that point said that they were not allowing him to monopolize
Right.
industry that he created.
Fair.
And that was him going,
Yeah.
fuck you. And what came out of that is Bill Gates, after 98 into 99 and 2000, he pivoted. He was a tech mogul. He was a do anything, slit your throat businessman, monopolizer of industry. And then he got a PR firm and he went out and he started doing polio and he started helping African children.
Or,
endeavors.
Right.
or he decided that, you know what, they weren't wrong. I need to start helping out my community more.
When did he get a PR firm though? Because I actually forget which book I read and it talked about that.
Yeah.
Right after the deposition and monopolization was busted.
Whether he got a PR firm or not doesn't mean that he didn't want to do good. In order to do good, sometimes you have to have a good face. You can't go from an evil position and then expect people to trust you to help other people. So you do need that kind of PR. Everyone does it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't do it, pal. What I'm saying is that it's the timing irony of having your big global penis pulled out in front of everybody and slammed on the table. That was an image he would not accept again. It doesn't matter. Like he was not philanthropic until he needed to be philanthropic. It's not an innate Gates persona.
I did read something about that.
Right.
So
now you have a situation where this man, he is very disappointed. Watch the clip. Like I obviously we're not going to play a 53-minute clip here. He is very condescending. He like, and I get that there's
absolutely
are ridiculous, but
yeah,
you put someone in a certain environment. I don't feel that it's fair to judge him on in a deposition. I want to see the timeline of when he got this, when he started his company with Melinda. That is when you start connecting the dots. Judging someone on them having, a shitty day, they're getting questioned. None of us are going to be on our best behavior. You know what I mean?
So when was he on Epstein's Island then?
That's when those are the things that
right.
No bueno.
We're not allowed to talk about that. Like she's in jail. It's over now, buddy. It's all done. You didn't know?
There's so many people that got off. I don't even want to get into that. Ugh.
We talked about it off and on, and I am shocked that I had to watch. Well, I didn't watch it. A good friend of ours kept us up to date on Johnny Depp, which was super important. Meanwhile, I would have liked to know what was going on there. Like that is the one that you should know, have information about. I don't care that Johnny Depp's bed got shit on. Like, I don't even care.
It's true though.
Don't care at all. I don't care what he did, what they did. I don't care if he lost money. So go do that in family court where you belong. And let's not talk about that because you both have mental health, drug addiction issues, and you both need help. And nothing, us seeing it is going to make it way worse, not help you. So let's see this other stuff where children were hurt. And let's find a way to stop our children from being
global by the hands of global leaders.
Right?
That's the part that's like terrifying is these are massive players.
Well, what I'm worried about is that these were just figureheads, right? So what's to say it's not still going on behind the scenes because it was so massive. They took down the figureheads and it's still happening, so in the school boards, they actually do, for teachers, they're teaching them how to notice like trafficking, possible trafficking, like young ladies and young men being trafficked. That's not the right word.
Like, no, trafficked. Yep.
It's that big of an issue that in our schools, teachers are being trained. That's wild.
That's scary. That's really scary. I just got chills because it wasn't too I feel like it wasn't too long ago that this is like a new problem, is it not?
I think it's a new on the books problem. I don't think it's ever been a new problem. I think we've always had this problem, maybe more widespread. But I think in like more impoverished communities, I think it's just kind of come to the middle class is starting to get involved.
Fair.
I think it's a new to Western societies.
Could be that.
Right. I think that, if you were to go around today, there's more slavery around the world than there has ever been before. And any time where we, as Western cultures, want to discuss slavery, like when we think of slavery, we think of, the plantations in the South. And it's like that is very far from, today's actual slave issues. Right. A lot of it is sex work. A lot of it is, again, you go to most industry on some level. All around the world, there is a major form of slavery.
Yeah,
we keep supporting it in the Middle East. I don't know why we do, but we
even an unfair wage is like if you're paying 25 cents
call me James here. Jeez,
but that's slavery.
Union,
25 cents an hour for work to be done, and you're getting like $300 for the item that they're building. That's slavery. I don't care.
Yeah.
So as a capitalist, I'm going to explain.
We're both no.
I don't want to hear your silly explanation. It's wrong. It's slavery.
That's two against one.
No, but hang on. So let's talk about that. Where was for the last 30 years? Where was the cheapest labor in the world?
China.
Okay, so China is not the cheapest labor by far anymore. In fact, it's likely going to be at its own detriment over the next 10 years, 5 years especially. That manufacturing is leaving China by the boatload.
Going where?
Anywhere else they can. Northern Mexico is big right now because of NAFTA.
Maybe.
India is going to be huge. Sri Lanka, all the stuff that's going on in Sri Lanka right now. Wait till that to settle, right? So when you have these economic upheavals, right? China they were farmers of rice, subsistence farming, right? And we went in, the Western cultures after World War II said, hey, you want to make shit? You want to make little dinky shit?
You want 25 cents is what they said.
So for what?
They said, do you want 25 cents is what they said. And people were like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And that's where you went from Maoist China, which was communism. We are a collective where 40 million of them starved, right? To a capitalistic centered industry where now they have a middle class. And that's why we're pulling out. We're pulling out because China has a middle class now and we're running for the hills because that doesn't work. So now we go to where?
Well, so we started in America in the cotton fields, and that's where we ended our slavery. And then they got wise to it and they stopped us. So then we were like, well, where else can we make slaves? And we were like, China's great. They're not very smart. They're just on the rice paddies. We'll just go over there and we'll say, we'll pay them 25.
That was pretty racist.
Because we're going to be really nice to them. And so they did that. And now we're just looking for the next person to enslave. That's what's going on, man. Like it's a terrible, terrible thing. I don't know why we can't just build in our own country. And, like if you're going to, the profit between making shoes, Nike, who is like all for like making people happy and like making all those great commercials, is making shoes for 25 cents an hour and making like $300 profit on a pair of shoes. You're telling me you can't fit some more profit in there to pay a livable wage? They're looking for slaves. What you're talking about right now is that the middle class has wised up in China and they're like, you know what? We need money. And you're going to pay us the right amount of money. And they're like, you know what? There's going to be other slaves in another country. Let's go to Sri Lanka.
Right.
They'll do it for nothing.
Pal, I don't disagree with you. It's an argument that we've had since the inception of these multinational corporations.
Sorry,
right?
Stephen, I just talked over you. I apologize.
No, but we've done this for 30 years, right? Have multinational corporations running these geopolitical organizations that staff and manage this, but we don't have a capacity or will to change it. And what I'm saying is that if you want to change it, you need to become a major investor in the process to go and dynamically change that and say that I'm going to be 10 Tree, a clothing company that plants trees, right? I'm going to be X, and my stuff's going to be made by 13-year-old little children instead of 7. We're going to have a cutoff at 7.
It's true. You kind of do need to join them to beat them. You need to beat them at their own game, right? Like you need to figure out what's going on in order to take it apart.
And what I talk about a lot here is about the following the money facet. Okay, so if you're pissed off at Nike and you don't like Nike and you think that Nike is exploitative of labor, what I would suggest in doing is making as much money as you possibly can off those exploitative processes and then change it. Find something else. Do something else. If you are just a person with a picket sign, you are extremely powerless, and you are viewed upon in our system, which is capitalist, as noise. You're canceled out. You have to, every day when you leave your home, you have these little dollar bills, and those are little votes. And you get to go around and you get to lay that on certain brands. You know, for myself, being a conservative, there's certain brands that I have 100% walked away from over the years. Walked away from them, right? And you're starting to see the left taking that on in a big way. They're the cancel culture type movement. I don't think you need to cancel somebody. I think you just stop spending money there. But if you want to walk away from Nike, then that's what you should do. I support that.
So we as the left have been doing that for years and years and years, man. That's not like a conservative concept. Like
no, I'm saying for myself.
In California, there was like a great thing that went on. We lost Sara. Like we scared her away with her nonsense.
Yeah, she'll be back.
No. So there was a grape thing, and then everyone would stop buying grapes. Or, you know, there's been boycott after boycott after boycott. But I absolutely agree with you. To promote change, you don't cancel. Boycotting is one thing, or calling someone else out is one thing, but to actually like ruin their career over something is ridiculous. But I think you can go about it 2 ways. You're absolutely right. You can make the widget better. You can do something like, you know, I'm not about this whole tree planting thing, because that's not even, how do you make sure that's happening? Because a lot of these companies say they're doing stuff and they're not actually doing it. But if you were to make a shoe company and say, you know what, our shoes are made in-house, they're made in Canada, we pay a fair wage, but they're $400, and that took off, then other shoe companies would follow.
But we did that.
Who did that?
We did that for 200 years here. You had mucklucks made in Toronto, and then we said, hey, we can send those down to Detroit, Michigan, and we're going to have them manufactured down there in a different process. But
what I'm suggesting is that if you run, because a lot of the time now people like they run things they're not on their product anymore. It's based on their geopolitical ideals of their company.
The branding of it.
The branding of their company. I can't think of the soap right now that we talk about all the time. Dove rebranded themselves. They didn't change their soap at all. They didn't change their products at all, but they rebranded themselves as the soap of, you know, positive body image. Yeah. Acceptance and positive body image. Right? So that's their product is no longer a soap product. Their product is a PR about body image, about convincing women that they're about everyone deserves to be just the way they are and stuff like that, right?
Everyone deserves to use soap.
Everyone deserves to be clean. Yeah, but it's not about soap anymore. So I think companies can come out now and they can say, you know what, we're not going to promote slavery anymore. We're going to promote a livable wage. Whether if you can go to Mexico and do that, you know, in Mexico, maybe the livable wage is $15 an hour, whereas in Canada, you're paying $40 an hour. You can still do it, but you do it ethically.
So why isn't anyone doing it?
Right. I was going to ask Sarah what her take on social governance is within organizational structure. Is there? Do you have an opinion?
What part of it?
Well, I know what you've done previously, and I was kind of sliding that in as being kind of a prick. So
All right, I'm glad we started there.
Right. That was good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the profiteers are well aware of who Ahern is.
Right.
I love them.
The one.
Everyone loves them, but they know.
No, with what you're saying though, right, is that like, why doesn't it happen? So this is something that I've talked about kind of briefly in over the last little while when we look at some of the charting of these companies and where we are with the flatlining of the bond market.
Because it's about money. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, because I hate to say it, but you have to follow the money to find out where it's going next. And I think we're going to enter into a mass deglobalization. Right. So for the last 50, let's call it 75 years, you had the United States military that decided that they were willing to go around the world and be the police officers for the world. Right. If you want to go to Africa and export rubber, the U.S. Navy would stand there on the shore and go, "Good luck, Mr. Sailor, and we'll make sure that you get to California ports." Right. Well, I would argue that the last presidents I would go back to as far as like Bush Sr. have been saying, no, we're not going to send our boys over to die in some foreign land anymore. And I would argue right now that's part of why we have the situation we have in Russia, right? Is that you have a geopolitical destabilization because Russia realizes that demographically they're at the end of their roads right now. They do not have a millennial population like we do, right? We're one of the only groups that have a Zoomer, like that in between baby boomers and millennials population. China has a one-child policy for the last 40 years. They don't have a consumer-based economy like we do. China's in a lot of trouble. Who's going to make your widget? And that's why I think you're going to start to see this. Inflation right now is really bad because a lot of the stuff we're pulling out of cheap manufacturing. We have to find a home base. So China has shut down major cities for the last 2 years for COVID. And the COVID strategy in China right now under Xi Jinping is until 2027, zero COVID tolerance. Holy shit.
It's like wildfire. And I also think it's great that we're getting rid of these disposable products and one time. I think there's a big push for sustainability right now. And why did we go so far away from sustainability?
I don't disagree with you, but are we going because of? Sorry, James.
Oh, it was my fault. What it is, I think, is that when we talk, kind of mentioned this before, when your life is a concern, you stop caring about the environment. You stop caring about the things that are outside you. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. Like right now, we have money issues. Well, you're not going to give as much money to help a homeless or to help all those projects. You're not going to help Canadian Tire when they want you to round up at the end of the day, right? Because you need that money. But when you have that money again, you have all those resources again, then you'll be able to do that. No one cares about plastic straws when you might die from COVID, because that's your problem. Your problem is let's solve COVID, spend our money on COVID, stop spending our money on, affordable, energy cards and stuff like that. Because people, when it comes right down to it, when it's a very important thing like life, like when you're worried you're going to die or your family's going to die, you're selfish. I know I'm selfish. I'm a pretty nice guy. I like doing things for people. I like helping out. I give to the homeless. I like on the ground. But when it came time to COVID, I wasn't so nice. I didn't hand out as much because I was trying to keep my family safe in every way I can. And I think that's why we got away from this whole we were using plastic bags. Like they just went from no plastic bags to have as many plastic bags as you want, right? And the masks. Oh my God, don't even get me started. There's still masks all over the outside there, everywhere. No one cared.
So,
but just coming out of the store and throwing it on the floor.
I cared.
Right. So my issue is that I look at it and I go, these are not social issues that we're tackling. These are consumer issues that we're being programmed for. So when you go to Walmart and they don't give you a plastic bag anymore, that affects you in that 10-second purchase, and you go, ah, shit, I didn't bring my little green bag. Okay. But the bottom line is Walmart saved $7 million on their bottom line by saying, we're going to have a more socially and ecologically friendly purchasing process. And we all went, yeah.
That's a great idea. It's good for the
You're
environment.
not wrong.
Yeah. I leave fucking Walmart and I look like this going out. I got one under my neck. I got like all this shit going into the car, right? And I go, I'm not buying your fucking bag. I'm that old guy.
Yeah. No, I take the cart out
Bring your-
to the car.
bring your bag.
Yeah. And
But
then,
well, I go back to that is that if we're kind of my thesis on this is that I think we are leaving globalization. So we have this awakening around the expendability of consumer products. But I think that it's been coming. We're being told don't have these throwaway products because you ain't gonna have them. We're not gonna have the dollar store products in 5 years. I really do think that we are on a precipice of a collapse of China. And I think people think I'm nuts when I say that, but they do not have a demographic that can keep up. And sorry, go ahead.
You're making it sound like it's the end of the world.
Yep.
And I literally have this conversation with my mom, grew up in Portugal. They didn't have electricity.
Right.
There was 8 children.
Right.
They didn't have a dollar store.
Right.
They're fine.
I'm
It's
not saying.
Like it will definitely be like a culture. Like people will have to like change like how they think about things, and there's going to be, you know, change management that goes around that. But not having a plastic bag is better for the environment. You can work around it. There's workarounds, and it's definitely just like it's just that mindset shift of, do I really need? How much should I be throwing out a day? Think about how many things you throw in the garbage. Where does the garbage go?
So my question to you, and I don't disagree with you. I think that
What's
is
your
incredible.
question?
Okay, so hang on. So first of all, I'm going to blow smoke up your ass for a second. First of all, I think that that's an incredibly mature way of viewing it, right? I don't think a lot of people think of it that way, and I think part of that is because of the way that you were brought up, right? You came from a family that your family came here and worked their asses off and created things. I view that as societal fall.
Why? Because
the next generation doesn't have it as good as the one that left it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm saying is that, well, okay, so your family came from Portugal, and they came here with nothing, and they made beautiful things. They made beautiful families. They've made beautiful careers.
Yes.
They've made a beautiful home for themselves. They've created an affluent lifestyle, right?
Correct.
From where they came from, would have never thought it possible.
I see where you're going with this, and you're talking about, okay, now your kids, they're not going to have plastic bags. Okay, but they're going to do better for the environment. They're not going to create as much garbage, and that is better, in my opinion.
But let's not get stuck on the garbage bag. Let's get stuck on the ability to have global supply chain, which is falling apart. I think we can all agree that that's fell apart over the last 2 years. And that ability to have that commercial readiness and freedom to do commerce all around the world. I'm concerned that's falling apart. I'm concerned we are going to be increasingly nationalist in our perspectives, which become dangerous on a geopolitical spectrum. And that's because if you only give a shit about the United States, if Canada only cares about Canada and the United States only cares about the United States, then a guy with a gun standing at Buffalo is a problem for Windsor. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
You get geopolitical strife and conflict. When you
at the end of the day, we don't have chips for our cars, and that's when it becomes a problem.
Well, if you can't afford a car anymore, right? Like when people are happy and consuming, everything's good. The world tickety-boo moves forward. When you take one of those inputs out, people go, what do you mean my Big Mac's $12?
My thing is like, why do we need a Big Mac?
And you're not wrong.
Like, just take, like, what is, like, why do we need so much? Why do we need access to everything? Why do we need to make so much money off of China? Why do we need so much? How much do you really need to survive?
I don't disagree with you. I think that I, as a conservative, right? And I think that you're kind of like right down the middle, as I know you. As a conservative, I go, with all due respect, it's not your role to tell me what I need or don't need.
Yeah.
And that's not a personal attack or an affront or like that. That's me saying I get to decide, not fucking Walmart.
Okay, well, if your problem with Big Mac being $12, that's your problem.
100%. And I will use my little voting coupons and I will go to Wendy's. And
Which
then
will have
what I'm
$12.
expecting, sorry?
Which will have a $12 burger because McDonald's is doing it.
Gotta stay
Right.
competitive.
So what you do though is let the free market dictate. When Walmart comes out and says we're going to cut off your plastic bag usage because trees, right? Then I go, that's not social governance. That's bottom line, baby. And if you are eating that as Walmart,
Why can't it be both, Patrick?
But we're smarter than that,
A
aren't we?
win-win? How could that happen?
A win-win? There's no win-win. Absolutely not. No way.
I'm with her. I think it's a win-win. I think there are ethical people at Walmart that are like, you know what? I'm going to phrase this in a thing that Walmart will eat up, and I'll still, at the end of the day, get no bags.
I personally don't take my votes to Walmart often.
Right.
Once in a while, I'll go to Walmart. But because they've had so many ethical issues in the past with, underpaying wages, just so much, I don't go there. So, if I think the bags are a good thing. Getting rid of the bags are a good thing.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
And you know what?
It
improves.
Good.
Pardon?
It's a pain in the ass, but it's good. Yeah, it's great.
It's a pain in the ass now because we're so used to it.
Yeah.
When did they stop? Does anyone remember?
I think it was the year before COVID.
The year before?
I think so.
It was like a trickle, right? Like those extra bags were available, no one bought them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started charging 5 cents, and then it was like 10 cents.
What gets me is I literally got an iced coffee. I think it was Starbucks, but it might have been McDonald's. And it's in this huge plastic cup. But then I got a paper straw, and I'm like, oh, this is good. I've done a lot for the environment because I no longer use a plastic straw. But I have a giant plastic cup that
the turtles
people behind me are using. Like it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then I just found out today that I don't know what company it is. So my group that I run with, one of the ladies was telling me that she just found out that she's been recycling forever at her work.
The worst.
And the custodians collect the garbage and the recycling and put it all in the dumpster. So here they are, like rinsing things out and doing all that, and then found out. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do about it?
McDonald's.
Like, what can I do? I'm like, you could do something. There's lots you can do. Because I'm telling you right now, it's probably they're just being lazy. Like, just get it fixed. But anyway, I just thought it was wild.
I was 15 years old at McDonald's, and I remember when I saw that, and I was like, everything's a lie.
Everything, yeah. Well, I've noticed.
It's odd though. Why would you even ask people to put it in separate bins?
Yeah.
Come on, that was like very disheartening.
I am listening wholeheartedly as you guys go through this. But
so I have noticed Tim Hortons itself used to have like cardboard containers and then garbage, and now it's just garbage. There is no like recycling in Tim Hortons anymore, and everything they have is paper. It's wild.
I was at like Sherway, I think it was Sherway Gardens, one of these malls, and they actually had a station with people working there, and you don't throw your garbage out, you put your garbage there and they sort it. So I really hope that they're.
Yeah. I saw that in Toronto when I was there. The same kind of thing at a mall food court. You hand it to someone and then they separate it and they, that's such a cool idea. But what are we looking at?
This is Walmart.
Oh. Are we looking at the time that the bags disappeared?
Well,
That'd be interesting.
I would argue to find that there is a correlation, right? Like in the United States, I don't believe that they have a bag policy yet. I would say Walmart Canada does. We're a little bit more forward thinking that way. But I would like to know, and I'm sure we could look into their earnings calls to find out how that has affected it and what their long-term perspective is on it, right? But when I look at Walmart, that's from 2018, right? Like when you draw that line on there, like there's a lot of support along that line. That orange line is artificial, right? Then we have these areas here are areas of consolidation, right? So we have previous highs, okay? And then we've seen this just fall off a cliff. And part of this is that obviously we're going into a global recession. This is basically in the beginning of 2022. We see major pullbacks. The entire market has done this, right? But a company like Walmart should be diversified enough to be able to handle what's kind of coming down the pipe, one would think. And that's where I'm starting to wonder. And I'm saying that you have an organization like this that is in a position where they realize that any cost-cutting facet is going to affect their bottom line massively. And what do we do from here? One of the conference calls that I sat in on a while ago, this was their earnings for quarter one. We're now into almost quarter two earnings. Was that they have massive inventory surpluses. Walmart and Target, specifically in the United States, because that, that's what I listen to, because that what really moves the stock price, are in a position now where they are putting refund policies together where they're saying, keep the goods. We will send you the money. Don't come in our store. Don't bring us the goods back. We don't want them back.
You don't have room for them.
We don't have room for them. We are so overstocked.
It's going to cost us more money to house it,
right,
than the loss.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So my question is that the bags are, I would argue, as lovely as it, the concept is that they're cost cutting. They're massively cost cutting. Every purchase.
What I'm hearing is that you always forget your reusable bag when you go into the store.
Is it that transparent? Like it sucks. I hate it.
Keep it in your car. Keep a few in your car.
Not doing it.
That is what I do. I keep all my reusable bags in my car. Still forget them when I go inside. But if you take a cart, you can bring your cart out to the car and you just kind of bag in the trunk.
I actually got that right on nail on the head because you just like shut right down. You're like, okay, yeah. That was
yeah, that's my problem. It's all about the bags. That's it.
So another aspect of this is, remember we used to have like bag boys that used to bag shit for you?
Yep.
They're gone.
Yep.
Not at Costco.
Do you know what? I haven't been to Costco in forever.
Yeah.
Costco is bag people, and it's frustrating because I'm like, can you put the frozen berries on the meat so that it keeps it cold? Like there's a process.
Are you a little bit like particular about the things you like in the world?
Come on, it's common sense.
That's funny.
You're not going to put like.
Short answer is yes. Do you feel a little attacked?
It is common sense, but it's not something that I've thought about. Like,
is that not common sense?
I usually keep the dairy with the dairy and stuff like that, and cold with the cold.
Cold with cold, right?
I keep cold with cold. Yeah, and I think that's how the old school baggers used to do it. But now it's just.
What are you trying to say, James?
I'm not trying to say anything about you. I'm just
Sarah's an old school bagger.
And so they just want you in and out. But what's more worrying is all the robots that we have, like, because right now I think there's like 2 tellers at a Walmart or even a grocery store, and the rest is all robots, like all computerized. And
you line up.
You want to line up, you really do, but sometimes that line goes on forever because they purposely like have put the most ancient person on the teller that takes forever.
That's what's frustrating.
People. I love them. They're lovely people, but they slow. And
that's what's frustrating is when you see that they've intentionally put 2 cashiers, and then there's 6 of the systems, and then there's 3 people watching the systems.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like,
Mike, I agree 100%. But when I say that we're being engineered as consumers, everyone's like, you're nuts. And then I go, they put on Grandma Helen to ring you through but they've got 7 robot stations that you're
One
welcome
Grandma
to.
Helen.
Yeah.
100%. They don't want Grandma Helen. They're just waiting until people stop bitching and moaning enough, right? But what I'm saying is that is a behavior patterning. That's Pavlovian. Where you go and you look at Helen. Sorry?
We're being conditioned. Yes.
100%. We're being conditioned. And there's so many facets of our daily life that this happens in, that if you stop, and I hate to say it, the strongest motivator for the psychological training that it takes to put these in place is financial, right? I look at where the money is going to and where it's coming from, and you can kind of go, if you can start looking at your life that way, I feel like you start to be a little bit more informed of the world around you. And it's not always crazy. Some of it's crazy.
Most of it's cool. Crazy.
Quarter's crazy.
But I still think there are companies and there are people that are striving to do good in the world, and they're striving to make a change. And like, I think we're being pretty hard on some of these companies. I think some of the times they actually are not looking at the bottom line. They're actually looking at making a positive change in life. And then it just is fiscally, say that word?
Fiscally.
Yeah, responsible of them to do it in an appropriate way that works for their business. But I really do think some of these companies are like, okay, how can we make a positive change in the world? I don't think Walmart's one of those companies, but I think like some of the other companies, like I think Bill Gates is one of those people. I think that he does look for positive change, but I also think that there's a little bit of evil dictator in him, and that
I agree with that.
That he kind of walks a line. Like, he does a lot of good things for the world. He really does, and I think he does them out of the goodness of his heart. But he also is a business genius who is good at farming people. He is an amazing farmer of people. And because he can squeeze profit out of the almost anywhere, right? So even if he's doing good, there's still a little taint of evil to it.
Absolute power.
Corrupts,
absolutely.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah. No, I'm a firm believer that Bill Gates is probably not a guy. Like, God bless him. I'll give him the ounce of compassion and that sort of thing, but like it's not like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't get an ounce of evil and still get my like respect and dignity. I go, no, that's evil shit, and I think
you're also holding him to a higher standard, which I think is fair. He has so much power, and he could do so much good by making certain decisions, but you're holding him to a higher standard because he should be you should be more critical of someone who has that much power, because they're making waves regardless of if their decisions 75% good, right? Like, they can change the course of
human history,
our lives, very easily. So they should be making very good decisions.
Well, so like Elon.
I hope you're right, James.
I think so.
Yeah. I hope.
I like to see the good in people, all people, even like.
So I like Elon, right? Like, I like Elon Musk.
You love Elon.
I love Elon.
Yeah, because he's rich.
Well, but no, he's
a businessman and he's made money.
Well, so I look at it and I go, he is as dangerous as anyone else in the world. And I don't look to him for my social governance, my moral compass. I look at him and I go, what he's done financially and economically is brilliant.
And he's honest about it.
Right.
I like how authentic he is.
If you're looking to Elon Musk for your moral compass, if you're looking to Bill Gates for your moral compass, honey, you're broken. You're like, and that's
whoa.
No, I'm not targeting honey here. I'm saying that as a people, if we're looking at these people, we're broken.
I'm pretty sure he's not talking to you, Sarah.
Right.
I'm not saying you're talking to me, but just
was that misogynistic?
Just don't call people broken.
Oh, I thought you were worried about honey. The broken part I'm so adamant about. Honey, I can waver on. No.
Their moral compass is a little off. They can They're not broken.
Why? Do you have a problem with being called broken?
I just feel like that's so drastic, so dramatic.
I would argue that like politicians, people with podcasts, politicians, celebrities on really any facet
Yes.
have an egomaniacal complex about themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a huge ego, and that's one of the reasons I'm on here. Absolutely. I agree. Anyone who does like a podcast or is comfortable with it and or wants the fame has an ego side of them that they derive pleasure because their ego gets fed. You're right. Yeah.
Right. So how now? Okay, so we've got 10 people watching us tonight.
Yeah.
Now times that by Elon Musk. As soon as he tweets, there's 50,000 people.
You're right.
They
Yeah.
tweet
The crowd goes wild.
right.
And markets change and world politics change when he talks. Yeah. No.
People make money.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
huge.
To the moon.
Right. And lose money, right?
mhm.
So no, I struggle with that in a big way. Elon Musk is a brilliant man. I think, to be honest with you, his goals are admirable. His tactics to get there, though, and him as a human.
I think that he is a man that would do great evil to. I think he is a firm believer the deeds do outweigh the outcomes outweigh the action. I can't remember that saying.
Machiavellian.
Like, it doesn't matter what I do as long as the outcome is a good thing.
Yeah, the Machiavellian concept.
Yeah.
The end justifies the means.
That's it. The end justifies the means. Have you ever seen him? He talks about the most dangerous thing that could happen in technology. And he talks about not robots, not anything. He's like drones. He said drones are the most dangerous. And the whole podcast on it, not podcast, but it's a short kind of interview. It's quite frightening how he talks about it.
You need a license to drive commercially now.
Drones.
Good.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty dangerous. Like Obama was like killing people, like surgically striking people in another country.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, but now you've got drones in your backyard that real estate agents are using, that the government is using for mapping, all that sort of thing, right?
So apparently the licenses are more for like liability because they were flying into planes and bringing planes down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it. And it's probably a good thing. I hate to say it, but whenever you get government into that type of practice, they tend to screw it up or make it very monopolized. So I think that will likely hinder our development here in Canada for a while. I don't know if they have that. Do you know if they have a licensing process in the States?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But everyone and their kids had drones. And I remember being in Toronto and there'd be like flying by your window. And I was like, I need a paintball gun. Like, this is like an invasion of privacy. Like, going by your...
But in the legal realm, it's not, because you're in the public eye if your window is open. Isn't that the law on it?
See, I don't know about and because I know where Sara lived in Toronto, she was up high enough that like you have a bit of an expectation.
So you have an expectation of privacy in that
right. But
if someone took a picture of my house right now and happened to get a picture of me in the window, that's not
the zoom that makes me nervous.
Right?
Like you can, and when you live in like an apartment building and like across the way or like a condo across the way, you can see if people have their lights on, whatever. You see crazy stuff, but like I don't want someone zooming and videotaping it.
What kind of stuff you seen?
Oh yeah,
everything. Everything you can imagine. Yep.
So we're going to bring you back for a 2.0 with Sara about all of the apartment scenes. And do you have pictures like that? How does that work?
Yeah.
Like I'm getting pretty tech savvy here. You could send me ahead of time some pictures.
Yeah. I believe
them.
Jimmy Stewart did a whole whole movie on this through the rear window or something. I can't remember what it's called. Jimmy Stewart. So he has a broken leg and he's watching his community through a telescope, and he actually witnesses a murder.
I do remember that now.
It's an interesting movie. It's very good. It's very old though.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that though. He had a broken leg and he was peeping kind of on all the neighbors.
Yeah.
And he witnessed, the husband kill the wife, I think.
At first, it was very innocuous. Like you saw the woman that was half naked, and you saw like couples fighting and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, there's a murder, and it's all about that. But
Dun dun dun.
What do you mean you witnessed the murder? How?
Right.
Exactly.
How did you see that level of detail, sir?
Yeah, exactly.
How did
Wow.
how do you explain?
That's it. Well,
Well,
folks, we've been about an hour and a half here today.
Okay.
First of all, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time. I know that on a busy Thursday night like this, where else would you want to be other than hanging out with a couple prophets here?
Yeah.
Nowhere
I
else.
said it better myself.
Yeah. No.
No.
No, Sarah, you're an absolute delight. I'm glad I finally got to meet you. You're everything that Pat said. You're also a great judge of prophet, who is like, really. I'm not going to get into that.
Are you bullshitting or what are you coming up with?
I was bullshitting. I was going to bullshit, but no, you're awesome. You're very educated and delightful. I don't know that we talked, like our banner keeps on going by and my little kind of mind is like, we barely talked about market issues or first time buyers, but no, I think our conversation got organic. We talked about some great things. I didn't know that you had so much in the mental health field. That's amazing.
I personally don't, but
No, but you do because your mom, educated you in that way. That's awesome. That was incredible.
not willingly.
Through osmosis.
Yeah.
That's it.
But still important, like, because you have a lens that is different than most people, especially most people your age. Because if you saw someone in McDonald's, like I was talking about this yesterday, if you saw someone in McDonald's freak out over their Big Mac because it didn't have the right amount of sesames, you wouldn't be grabbing your camera and filming them so you could get some YouTube likes.
God.
Whereas a lot of people your age would grab the camera and try to, get it up on live as quick as possible so they could be the first to show it. And then, put their face on Bell Talks because, they're for mental health. Like, it's just messed up. But anyway, because you have that lens, you're a better person for it. Anyway, is my point.
Oh, thanks, James, our national treasure, as always.
That's
Such
it.
an enlightening spirit and perspective.
So
Look
kind.
at her, right?
I'm blushing.
Well, we'll have to have Sarah 2.0 sometime and talk about the things that we planned on talking about, but that's kind of how we do. We just kind of roll with it, right? So, folks, as always, thank you so much. So we do this every time. Sarah doesn't know anything about this at the end, but we're going to put her on the spot for a little cue off at the end. So mine is always, let's make some money together, right?
Let's heal our mind, bodies, and souls.
Yours in a second.
Together.
So as always, folks, thank you very much. Let's make some money together.
Let's
James
heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
and Sarah.
Bye.